Good morning. Today we're convening for FirstNet's combined board and committee meeting. I want to thank everyone for joining us virtually today for our first board meeting of 2021. We're starting a new cycle this year in which we will have board meetings in February, May, August, and November. This new schedule will be helpful in many ways as we plan our board meetings, including helping to sync up the annual budget process with our quarterly board meeting program. One of the features of the FirstNet board is that it includes cabinet level officials from the Department of Justice, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Office of Management and Budget. In the case of OMB, the previous director appointed Associate Director Jessica Rainier to represent the agency on our board. But with the change of administration, she has left Office of Management and Budget. While we await the appointment of a new representative from that agency, we expect that Austin Turner and Peter Hoy will continue to ably represent their interests. One of our top priorities this year will be our work in reviewing the events of December 25th, 2020, which is when a bomb attack damaged an AT&T central office in Nashville, Tennessee. While the FirstNet infrastructure was not directly damaged from the blast, it did cause a network service outage that affected users in the local area, as well as other parts of Tennessee, Kentucky, and Alabama. Given the circumstances, AT&T was able to respond and restore service to public safety users quickly, with FirstNet deployables serving as key assets in the reestablishment of communications. The FirstNet Authority is currently in the process of reviewing the event and its impact on FirstNet service in the local Nashville area and the surrounding region. As part of our review, I was recently joined by Vice Chair Chief Carrizo and members of our Public Safety Advisory Team in a series of meetings with public safety users in Tennessee and Kentucky who were impacted by the service outage. These discussions were very helpful and productive in the development of our after-action review of the event. FirstNet CEO Ed Parkinson will be providing an update about our plans for this later in today's program. Today, we will receive a Public Safety Advisory Committee update from PSAC Chair Todd Early, and we will get Advocacy, Network and Technology, and Finance Committee meeting updates. First, I would like to ask our board secretary to call the roll for the board and confirm that each committee has a quorum. Madam Secretary, please call the roll and then read the conflicts of interest statement.
Good morning. I'll mark you as present, Chair. Richard Carrizo.
Present.
Ruth Bob Brown Jr.
Present.
Welton Case.
Present.
Neil Cox.
Present.
Ryan Crawford.
Present.
Billy Hughes. Billy Hughes. Might be on mute. I'll come back, Billy.
Present.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you. Karima Holmes.
Present.
Edward Horowitz.
Present.
Darren Jones.
Present.
Paul Patrick.
Present.
Matt Slinkard.
Present.
David Zillett.
Present.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, we have a quorum for the board as well as for all four committees. Now I will read the conflict statement. Prior to participating in the FirstNet Authority combined board and committees meeting today, the board members have reviewed the agenda as well as the conflict of interest guidance provided by the Ethics Law and Program Division of the Department of Commerce Office of General Counsel regarding the conflict of interest standards that apply to the board members. All board members have responded prior to today's meeting that they do not have a conflict and will not need to recuse themselves from participation in any portion of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Each member of the board has before him or her the minutes of our December meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to these minutes at this time? Seeing none and hearing none, I will take a motion that we accept these minutes.
Tip, I move that we accept the minutes. This is Billy Bob.
Is there a second?
Tip, this is Paul Patrick. I'll second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Are there any abstentions? The December meetings are accepted. Madam Secretary, please make the minutes available to the public following this meeting. We'll now start the meeting with an update from the Chair of the Public Safety Advisory Committee, Todd Early. Todd?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and board members. Todd Early, PSAC Chair. Thank you again for the opportunity to be in front of you and provide an update on the great work that the PSAC is doing. So on December 17th, the First Responder Network Authority's Public Safety Advisory Committee held a virtual business meeting. During this meeting, our PSAC members received an update from the FirstNet Authority leadership and strategy teams, AT&T, an overview of the PSAC users working group and strike team updates. Our ICAM strike team, AT&T Scott Agnew provided the strike team with a detailed overview of the ICAM solution at a recent virtual meeting and where the team was able to provide some very valuable feedback. The ICAM rollout strategy will be the focus of the group's next meeting in the coming weeks. And the team we very much appreciate the work of the authority and AT&T on this ongoing critical topic for public safety. In regards to our telehealth strike team, in 2019, telehealth strike team developed an introductory product that provided a mid-level view of telehealth and its ability to be used effectively in public safety. The Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services selected several healthcare agencies nationwide to pilot the ET3 model, which was delayed due to COVID-19 in January of 2021. The telehealth strike team has developed a project statement and will be convening a larger group of participants and working with the National EMS Physicians Association PSAC representative Dr. Wise to highlight the success stories and lessons learned from using the technology at both ends of the telehealth process. Switching over to our tribal working group update. In January and February, the PSAC tribal working group calls kicked off a productive year for the working group. We agreed in January that the group would focus on providing input on updating tribal outreach and education materials and begun that update process recently in February. The chair of the tribal working group, Danae Wilson, has recently announced that she'll be leaving the PSAC and the tribal working group, and we will be working with NCIA on her replacement. I want to take a moment to really thank Danae Wilson for her leadership in the tribal working group, not only in the tribal working group, but also on the PSAC executive committee. Danae has been a very valuable leader in that arena. She's really helped bring knowledge and information from Indian country to both of those positions, and we greatly appreciate her service and look forward to working with her replacement as well. This group will now be focused on developing podcasts and blogs around their experiences using and advocating for the FirstNet network. We're looking forward to the developing more tribal-specific products in 2021. And lastly, that group met with NCIA to discuss and provide input on the $1 billion tribal grant program that is currently in the works. I'm really appreciative of the delegates that took the extra time and lent their expertise to this important program. And it really shows the value of the tribal working group, and I'd like to commend them for being recognized by the department and for their work. With that, Mr. Chair, that is my update, pending any questions that your board members may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Any board members have comments or questions? Okay, thanks again, Todd, and thanks for continuing to spend your valuable time leading this important body. We depend on them for feedback from public safety in every step of this process, so very much appreciate your continued engagement and leadership there.
Thank you, sir.
Now I'd like to turn to the Advocacy Committee, and Chief Carrizo, please. Over to you, Rich.
Appreciate it, Mr. Chair, and thank you. Before I'm going to turn it over to Dave Buchanan a little bit to talk about all the continued engagement that we've done over this last period, but the team has continued to make great progress with a lot of our stakeholders. The team continues to give virtual engagements and have conducted them over the last couple of months. An example of this was in January. FirstNet Authority and AT&T hosted a webinar in which speakers participated in a roundtable discussion on numerous topics, including the FirstNet mission, critical services, and what our future looks like at FirstNet. The team has also continued to conduct focus groups to gather specific feedback from targeted stakeholders. The authority is using this engagement feedback to improve the FirstNet experience for all of our public safety customers. At this time, Dave, I'd like to turn it over to you to talk a little bit about some of the engagement accomplishments that we've had over the last quarter.
Yep, thanks, Chief Crizzo, and happy to give you and the board an update today on what we've been working on. I've got 2 slides. Will take about 5 minutes. I want to share with you some highlights from the first quarter, which you see here in slide 9, and then I'll take a few minutes on slide 10 to talk to you about where we're headed, what our areas of focus are going to be in this next year. So you see here on slide 9, our work has continued in our engagements with public safety and the stakeholder community. In Q1, we conducted 310 public safety engagements with public safety professionals from around the country, 93 national events, 217 state or local or regional or one-on-one events. These meetings and these engagements produced 398 feedback items. As you know, these feedback items we use to inform our management of the network, inform and influence and enhance our progress in bringing the FirstNet network to public safety. And we use that feedback to give us firsthand information from first responders about how they're taking advantage of and utilizing the network. The one item I want to call your attention to is the 23 focus groups that we hosted in the first quarter. You heard me describe over the last several board meetings our focus on bringing more specific engagements to targeted individuals, targeted subject matter experts. And these focus groups are really an outlet and a format we've used to do just that. In this case, we had these focus groups focused on location-based services and in-building coverage, where we're able to convene subject matter experts in small group settings to have in-depth dialogue, interview, questions, surveys, use cases, discussion around those items. And they're very productive in helping us get, again, in-depth information from those subject matter experts on those topics that then are going to be used to inform our roadmap in this next year. So I wanted to highlight those and tell you that we're on track in this new fiscal year to continue our engagements and to continue with the outcomes we've accomplished in previous years. On the next slide, I want to take a minute to talk to you about really our market engagement office and our focus in 2021 and our mission with this market engagement office to engage public safety, engage industry, engage academia, and engage government. We want to gain insight, expertise, and intelligence from those stakeholder groups so we can understand the needs and trends from those communities and those needs and trends in public safety communications and in the technology marketplace. And then we can use that information to analyze and share across FirstNet, across the FirstNet Authority to improve the FirstNet experience. And that's really the mission of this group. To achieve that mission, we've got to focus on a number of items. We want to emphasize, as we've had for the last 8 years, strong relationships with the stakeholder community. So we have mutual understanding and increased trust with not only public safety, but our partners in government, those in the industry and academia setting. We want to focus on demonstrations and the realization that we can capture of how public safety is operationalizing the use of FirstNet. And we use demonstrations to showcase that work and to share that information across the field. We want to emphasize collaborations with industry, academia, and government to identify additional opportunities where we can leverage their strengths, their attributes, and the unique abilities they have to convene public safety and to bring technologies to the marketplace, collaborating with those groups in order to increase and improve the FirstNet experience, and to document and publish actionable feedback that we can use in order to improve the FirstNet experience. All of these meetings, all this collaboration, all of these demonstrations aren't virtuous by themselves. They're virtuous because we get information about the network, about public safety's needs and use for it, and that we use that information to inform, enhance, and invest in the network going forward. And that'll continue to be our major operational focus into 2021. So look at the slide we have here, and these 3 areas of engagement, collaboration, performance, these are really the themes I think about when we consider how we're going to be successful. What do we need to do in order to be successful in meeting that mission I described? engagement, I think about who we're going to be meeting with and what we're going to be talking to them about. That continues to be a major aspect of how we organize our work, is thinking about these engagements, whether we're doing them virtually or doing them in person, what we're engaging on, what are the topics and issues and technologies and operations that we're focused on, and that we have a different and expanded marketplace that we're going to be focusing on here in FY21. We continue to grow the public safety marketplace that is in conversation with us. We're also, as you heard me describe, looking at industry, looking at academia, and looking for new ways to leverage our government partners to do that. With respect to collaboration, I think about how we increase our capacity to improve the FirstNet experience through operations, through demonstrations, through hands-on activities, really that highly collaborative experience that we want to bring to public safety, that we want to bring to our stakeholder community, so we can better understand those operational impacts, better understand how FirstNet can be utilized to improve public safety operations. And what we've learned over the last year is the more collaborative we can make these engagements, the more, again, hands-on, the more demonstrations, the more operationally focused these engagements are, the more productive they're going to be. And finally, we're focused on performance externally, how public safety agencies are using FirstNet to improve their public safety operational performance, and internally, our performance on how we efficiently and effectively deliver our market engagement activities in order to bring the most value to public safety. Really focused on those results that come from these, really focused on process and efficiency. And most importantly, we're really focused on, and will continue to be focused on, those public safety operations and how to increase and improve their performance through FirstNet. As you know, and we've heard over and over again, FirstNet isn't here just to provide a better network, a better broadband service. We're here to have public safety use this tool to improve their public safety operations, to make the public even more safe by taking advantage of this really powerful tool in the form of FirstNet. And that's what we're going to be focused on, how we can demonstrate that, how we can illustrate that, how we can improve that, and how we can bring our thought leadership to the field to showcase that, improve public safety operations through FirstNet. So, Mr. Chairman, that's our presentation for today. I'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
Real quick, Dave, I just want to thank you personally and your entire team for these are difficult times. We all know that, but you all just keep continuing on. And I know from the whole board, we just want to thank you, because getting our public safety people out there and hearing back from them is so important for this board to make decisions. So thank you, and thank you to the whole team.
Before moving on, I'd like to add my thanks also to Dave. In the wake of the Nashville bombing, the outreach to the community that was most impacted by that was enormously important. It's not part of the sort of the day-to-day activity of the organization to rally when there's a crisis on a network. It's not the kind of thing you plan for. You just have to react to it. Our team reacted extremely well, particularly our representatives on the ground, who not only provided us with information, but also helped all the communities out there that they're attached to respond to this in the most effective way they could. So congratulations for that, Dave, and we appreciate the work that your team is doing out there, especially those guys out there in the field.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, now let's get an update from the Network and Technology Committee. Neil Cox, you have the floor.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's been a lot of progress since our last readout and major program results to report since we met last in December. The committee held an excellent briefing last month where the committee was enabled to hear about all of the spectrum landscape in the United States and provide strategic guidance into the FirstNet Authority's focus on a host of spectrum issues and opportunities and initiatives. In this committee update, Jeff Bratchert, our Chief Network and Technology Officer, will provide a readout focused on the following themes. The ongoing momentum in the network deployment. This is really phenomenal what we've been able to do in the network deployment. And I think Jeff will give a really good picture of where we are in the whole deployment scenario. The recent progress in global standards. You know, we built this network to be a network built on standards, and we'll get a readout on the progress in the whole global standards arena. Differentiation devices available for public safety users. One of the things that we wanted to do with this network was to have devices that were for public safety only, and Jeff will talk a little bit about that. Some innovative applications and solutions to the operational issues faced by first responders. And finally, the progress in advancing public safety technologies through the collaboration with peers across the Department of Commerce. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jeff Bratchard, who will give an update. Jeff?
Great. Thank you, Committee Chairman Cox. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Happy to be with you all today from snowy Colorado. I'd like to touch on some key items that we're very excited about in some of the momentum related to the FirstNet network and how it is serving public safety and first responders. We're very pleased. I'll call your attention to the bottom two middle numbers here. AT&T announced in their recent earnings call in late January that the FirstNet network now has more than 1.9 million connections serving more than 15,000 public safety agencies. As we heard with the legislation and the advocacy that public safety came together to advocate for, they need a network that works for them. And with this number of connections almost doubling since late of 2019, we're all very satisfied and very happy. And it's clear that this FirstNet network is providing them with those capabilities that they've long advocated for and need to do their jobs and save lives. The expansion of the Band 14 coverage is proceeding on a continued aggressive pace and remains ahead of the contractual deployment dates that we outlined in the contract for the deployment of Band 14 in March of 2018. So we're very pleased that that's ahead of schedule. Several and numerous challenges were faced by public safety in 2020. And you see here, there were over 700 asset deployments for both planned and emergency events to support public safety in those times of need. FirstNet Authority, as we discussed and approved last year, we're also investing in expanding the size and diversity of that existing fleet of the 72 dedicated network assets, the SAC Colts, the additional 3 flying cows, and now, as you see the aerostat there, FirstNet One. We see additions to this coming later this year with some different platforms for public safety as well, based on their feedback and use and needs that we've learned. AT&T recently announced the availability of another innovative compact rapid deployable, where public safety agencies can now purchase their own small deployable network asset and use it as they need during their events. These agency-owned cell-on-wheels can be deployed by a single person within a matter of minutes and provide public safety with another unique coverage solution that allows them to take the network with them on short notice. That also highlights something we discussed with the committee in January and yesterday during the board briefing day. On January 26, I believe, AT&T, we're very pleased to announce some additional capabilities that I'll briefly touch on before we go to this slide. It's the FirstNet Mega Range. So that Mega Range device, as you all recall, the spectrum for Band 14 falls under the Part 90 FCC rules. That allows the unique benefit on FirstNet to have higher power user devices. HPUE is the term you'll hear. And that's exclusively available on FirstNet with Band 14. We're excited. There are vendors now building and providing those devices. I want to make clear, though, that those are not smartphone device form factors at this time. These are in-vehicle routers that leverage and can take advantage of that higher transmit power from an end user device. Assured Wireless and AirGain are two of the vendors working and deploying those now. And we're very excited. This was a need by public safety, especially on the network edge environments, to create additional reach back to the network from those user devices, whether they're within fire apparatus or police cars or command centers. So we're excited with that development. Another announcement, as I just discussed, was the compact rapid deployable. They also announced additional enhancements to our FirstNet push-to-talk service and its integration and interoperability with land mobile radio networks. So that's another unique asset and feature we've heard from the public safety users. They want to be able to integrate their land mobile radio systems with the FirstNet push-to-talk application that's now available on FirstNet. So that was also announced. And last but not least, I wanted to briefly touch on Z-access, or that vertical access location determination. So that was also part of the press release announcement. And this has long been the holy grail, not predominantly fire department, but also across other disciplines, being able to locate a downed firefighter in a multi-story building to within or plus or minus 3 meter accuracy. That has long been hailed as a key component and requirement for public safety. We're excited that that is now being rolled out in more than 105 markets across the country. And this provides that new level of indoor spatial awareness previously not available. And we're very excited that the initial application is by Intrepid Networks, and it's called Response for FirstNet. And that is released now. And again, we're very excited to see the use of that. It's not just good enough to get the 3-dimension location. You have to be able to find it. And this application builds in a mapping function that does exactly that in the dense urban markets with these high multi-level buildings. So overall, very excited with the momentum and the releases, the press release on these new capabilities that are coming to bear on the FirstNet network. Moving on to some of the other technology updates, as this network and the user base expands, the authority is working tirelessly to ensure innovation is a component in the new public safety communications technologies and solutions, and again, leading those directions within global standards, devices, and applications. Touching on the standards box, the 3GPP, that third generation partnership project, is the primary global standards body that developed the requirements for 4G and 5G wireless networks. And though the pandemic did force a migration to virtual meetings, our team is still continuing its aggressive submission and contributions on behalf of public safety communication needs to these groups to support those requirements and ensure they get put into these global standards. In December, as you recall, we shared that Release 17 work is in full swing, and that completion date was set as March 2022. A major plus for public safety is the continued inclusion and clarification of the 5G direct mode and broadcast mode communications. As an example of our leadership, many public safety agencies from across the globe actually co-signed onto 2 contributions that we authored and are working on by the FirstNet Authority in these committees to emphasize the importance of these features. We're very satisfied and happy to see that global worldwide support. There are numerous other countries, as we briefed in the past, looking to implement their own versions of FirstNet in their own countries to support their first responders. The Alliance for Telecommunication Industry Solutions, ATIS, and the Telecommunications Industry Association, TIA, those are key standard setting organizations here in North America. And we have teams focused on those LMR to LTE, the FirstNet interworking functions, again, enhancing that integration of LMR and the FirstNet broadband network. Moving over to devices, we now have over 256 devices in the ecosystem. 193 of those support Band 14. We're very glad to see the adoption and support of Band 14. An exciting new capability that I mentioned earlier, again, was that FirstNet Mega Range. Those devices are there. We actually have those also procured for our lab environment in Boulder to do further testing on those. Moving to applications, we have over 166 applications and user solutions in the FirstNet app catalog. Enhancing that situational awareness is a key element that we've heard through our public safety engagement, stakeholder engagement, and also feeding into our roadmap efforts. That situational awareness is key for first responders as they perform their jobs, and the need to locate those personnel locations. Moving on to collaborations. Again, we continue to collaborate closely with our colleagues at the Public Safety Communications Research Group within NIST. They've announced some more challenges coming up for this year. One example we've shared before is the Chariot, the augmented reality and Internet of Things focused with the PSER program. That will be happening. The culmination of that challenge is planned for later this year and is going to involve different technologies that will be leveraged and used to simulate Internet of Things streams and development of some augmented reality prototypes for completing tasks. At the December meeting of the board, we highlighted the R2 network. This is an innovative public-private partnership in collaboration of 3 agencies within the Department of Commerce. The U.S. Economic Development Administration, NIST PSER program, which provided $250,000 of funding. And again, the FirstNet Authority provided technical expertise and subject matter experts to serve as judges. The awardees continue to build out those tools, and these are just 2 of the examples that we like to highlight and the type of innovation that can be brought to first responders through this collaborative research programs. The Public Safety Communications Research Program's done a fantastic job with their open innovation platform in bringing industry, public safety, FirstNet Authority, AT&T together to work on these efforts based on their funding. So that concludes my presentation and recap. I'll turn it back to you, Committee Chairman Cox. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. Great job. I mean, you got to really be impressed with what we've been able to accomplish with the network and what we're providing for first responders. It's amazing that we've come this far so fast. With that, I'll turn it back over to Mr. Chairman. Yeah, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Neil. And thank you, Jeff, for your report. Let's turn now to the Finance Committee with Brian Crawford. Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee has been briefed on our current fiscal year operational results, and I am comfortable that we are within targeted obligation boundaries and have a solid plan for utilization of our remaining planned obligations. Now I'd like Kim Farrington, our FirstNet Chief Financial Officer, to provide a brief financial update. Kim?
Thank you, Brian. Good morning and afternoon, everyone. As you can see from this current slide, this illustrates our first quarter obligations by month, represented by the blue bars. As you can see from those blue bars, our cumulative spend to date was $17.6 million through the end of December. The horizontal green line at the top of the graph represents our annual operations budget of $83.5 million. The blue line that's leading up to our annual budget, that green line, represents our cumulative obligations budget plan for the remainder of the year. And the space between the top of each bar that you see for the first quarter and that blue line is indicative that we have not exceeded our board-approved plan and are on track through the first quarter of 2021. I'll now turn it back over to you, Chairman, for any closing remarks on the Finance Committee update.
Thank you, Kim, and thank you, Brian. That concludes our business for today. What I'd like to do now is turn to CEO Ed Parkinson for remarks that you'd like to make. Ed?
Thank you, Tip. Good morning. Good morning, all. It's a pleasure to be here today to provide a quick readout on a number of areas we've had. Before I do, I just want to add a personal touch. My wife gave birth to our third child about 3 weeks ago, and I've been really overwhelmed by the number of people in the public safety community who've reached out to me personally to send congratulations to not only Courtney, my wife, but our little one and myself. So I just wanted to thank everyone who's done so, and I really it just says so much about the public safety community, and I just feel privileged to be to be able to serve the community. So thank you for that. I'd also like to thank the entire board for the continued leadership and support that they've given myself, my management team, as well as the entire FirstNet Authority and our public safety mission. As we started this new year of 2021, we find ourselves really crossing key benchmarks in the life of the network. For starters, this month marks the 9th year since the creation of the FirstNet Authority, when it was signed into law back in February of 2012. I remember where I was that night when it was signed into law, and it's pretty remarkable to see where we've come from. As someone who was involved in the development of the legislation, I'll always remember public safety's dedication and vision for the network. It's something that we strive to achieve every day at the FirstNet Authority. Next month marks the 4th anniversary of the partnership with AT&T and 3 years since we moved the network into production with our network deployment task order and the build out of the individual state plans. It's also worth to note that this is the 6th board meeting that we've had since the beginning of the pandemic. And I just want to congratulate my entire team for really not skipping a beat. They've worked dedicated, really been working extremely hard and dedicated towards the mission for serving public safety. Coming back to the network, we're over 80% of the network being deployed and with nearly 2 million subscriber connections. And while I'm certainly very pleased with the expansion of the network throughout the nation and the continued innovation for public safety is really a remarkable thing to touch that areas that Jeff just touched on, and I'll go into a little bit more detail shortly. As Jeff mentioned, AT&T just recently announced the launch of some new additions into the FirstNet service, all of which with the help of public safety's feedback and consultation through the FirstNet roadmap. It's that collaboration between public safety and the authority. We can feed that information back towards AT&T, and that we can make strategic investments into the network that really separates the FirstNet environment and ecosystem from any other type of public safety service that exists anywhere in the world. The mega range that Jeff talked a little bit about, the solution provides this high-powered user equipment capabilities that extends the coverage of the network across the nation, and especially critical in augmenting coverage in rural and remote areas. Again, as Jeff mentioned, no other network offers this capability. It is unique to Band 14, another example of why FirstNet is a difference maker for every public safety entity out there. The compact, rapid deployables, providing these public safety with another unique coverage solution that allows them to take the network with them on short notice. 2020 really illustrated how powerful the need is for public safety to leverage deployable units. We saw this in wildfires, we saw this in civil unrest, we saw this in hurricanes coming through the South. And again, with pandemic response, and now as the rollout of vaccines occur across the nation, the leveraging of public safety assets, FirstNet assets at these distribution centers is another key example of how FirstNet's been able to respond to the needs of public safety. And this different form factor for deployables is yet another example of how we at FirstNet are trying to act on the cutting edge of the evolution of how public safety needs to respond to any situation that exists, but how we are able to provide different solution sets for the betterment of public safety. The Z-axis feature, as Jeff mentioned, this is really the holy grail. This is another game changer that we've been able to provide across to public safety. And it gives those public safety agencies the capability to locate personnel in high rises, tall buildings, and other areas where the vertical access is required. A world first. And we're so excited to be able to provide that feature, to be at the cutting edge of technology and add that differentiated type service that, again, no one else can offer. The connection of the FirstNet push-to-talk solution is another terrific opportunity to take advantage of augmenting land mobile radio that exists out there and be able to provide that solution set that data only can add additional value on top of. FirstNet users will be able to work together more easily and to take advantage of all communications capabilities available to them. Improving the interoperability between land mobile radio and broadband is going to ultimately save local jurisdictions, state jurisdictions, federal jurisdictions money by utilizing state and local land mobile radio infrastructure. And we're very, very excited to see this in practice in states like Indiana, Michigan, and others across the nation. All of these recent announcements ultimately show the strength of our partnership with public safety and to understand their needs in a network. As I mentioned, the Z-axis solution is an example where the fire services community have been working hard to improve for many, many years, but it's something that all of public safety will now be able to take advantage of. And the high-powered user equipment is a service that is unique to FirstNet and the power of our dedicated Band 14 spectrum for public safety use. These new services and adoption rates prove that public safety feedback is fundamental to the success of any system that exists out there in the world. You cannot have a successful public safety service without direct first responder input. And we're just happy to see the continued progress on new solutions. But we also know that as we kick off the year of 2021, that this is only just the beginning. Our work directly with public safety will continue to make all of these FirstNet solutions better and will ultimately lead to many more innovations in the years to come. Now, as Chair also mentioned at the beginning, I'm going to just provide a quick readout on some of the steps and the actions that we've taken in the wake of the explosion that took place in Nashville on Christmas morning last year. So the bombing of the AT&T central office affected internet and wireless services in Tennessee, northern Alabama, and southwestern Kentucky. While the FirstNet network infrastructure was not directly impacted by the explosion, FirstNet subscribers in the Nashville area and some surrounding areas experienced these service outages that I mentioned. A little more than 2 weeks ago, our chair and vice chair of the board, Tip Taylor, as well as Rich Carrizo, along with members of our FirstNet team, Dave Buchanan, Gerald Risner, and Aaron Elhurt, traveled to Tennessee and Kentucky to listen directly to state and local subscribers about the operational impacts of the service outage that resulted from the explosion. We, the authority, have held virtual discussions. We're having another one again on Friday with more state and local users and with public safety officials in this region, as well as with federal users who were directly impacted by the service outage. My organization will continue to engage public safety as we develop this comprehensive picture to review the impact of this incident on public safety operations. Ultimately, we plan to make recommendations to AT&T that will enhance the user experience of FirstNet and the redundancy of public safety's network. We will learn from this event, public safety will learn from this event, and ultimately FirstNet, the system, will become stronger as a result of this. I know I am very, very happy with the type of information we've been receiving from public safety. The really no holds barred direct information is the only way that we like to operate here. And we thank all of the public safety users who've been providing us that feedback. Again, that direct feedback, be it on information that one likes to hear or if you don't like to hear, having it truthful and coming straight from public safety is the only way that we're going to be able to improve not only the service that public safety is enjoying with the FirstNet network, but also the type of customer service that we at the FirstNet Authority can provide to public safety, not only in the region that was affected by this outage, but across the nation. So again, I certainly would like to thank the board. I appreciate my entire team who've been working so diligently under very trying circumstances over the past 12 months as we look towards a very, very enthusiastic and exciting 2021. So with that, Chairman Taylor, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you very much, Ed. Thanks for your report and your continuing terrific work here. I know you've had to juggle a lot of things over the last couple of months, but we appreciate your continued dedication and effective leadership of this program. That concludes our business for today, and we are now prepared to adjourn. May I please have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, this is Karima. I move to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, this is Matt Slinkard. I second the motion to adjourn.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please indicate by saying nay. Are there any abstentions? The meeting is therefore adjourned. Thank you who participated in the combined board and committee meetings today, to the audience that joined us over WebEx, and the meeting is adjourned.